strength and movement strength class. Pillar strength and movement prep. That's what it is. We're going to go ahead and get started with our warm-up here, doing some cat-cow, quad rocks, and our hamstring sweeps. Then we have our circuit of glute bridge marches, leg raise to knee tuck, single leg RDLs, air squats, shoulder taps, bird dogs, IYTAs, push-ups, planks, and going twice through that, then heading into a cool down with our whole routine. I'm just gonna adjust my mat here slightly and adjust the camera to be a little bit more angled. Better. Perfect. All right. Now, continuing with our workout, we're gonna start with that warm up here with our cat-cow. So getting down onto our hands and knees, we're gonna get the hands directly below the shoulders, knees directly below the hips, dropping the belly button down towards the ground, rounding out the back, and coming back up, creating a nice arch through the torso, moving back and forth between our two positions here, pulling that spine up to the ceiling and dropping it back down towards the ground, just warming up the torso and the lower back, tucking those hips underneath. Getting a couple of rounding out of the shoulder and relaxing. Next up, we've got our quad rock with adductors, extension, stretch. So we're going to stick one leg out to the side, staying on our hands and knees, rock back towards the heel and come back up forward. Rocking back and forth, stretching into that adductor and the quads there. Nice, even rock back and forth. Go ahead and switch sides, extending that leg out to the side, rocking back and forth. Nice, even pace, just getting into those adductors, stretching out the inside of the hip. Nice and even. Good. From here, we're going to pop up onto our feet. We've got a couple of hamstring sweeps, stretching out the hamstrings and the back of the leg. Pointing one toe up, reaching our hands out behind. We're going to reach down towards the heels and stand straight up. Keeping that leg extended and straight. Sweeping the fingertips down through the ground and standing back up. A few more and switching sides. Sweeping through the heel, reaching those hands back. And standing back up. Couple more. And relax. All right, we're going to get into our workout for today. So starting with our glute bridge marches, we're going to get down onto our hips and our back with our knees bent. We're going to drive our hips up into the air. And from here, we're going to bring one knee up, holding, and coming back up, switching sides, alternating which foot we're bringing up and down, trying to keep those hips up as we bring those knees and feet up as well. Alternating side to side, trying to keep those hips up in the air. Switching from side to side. and lowering down. Good. Next up, we have our leg raise to knee tuck. So we're going to extend the legs straight out. We're going to bring them, our hands underneath our hips to get a little bit more leverage. We're going to bring the toes straight up, pulling the lower back into the ground, bringing the heels back down, and then knees come up to chest, bringing the heels in and extending out. So up, down, in, and back out. Up, down, in, and back out. In and out, up, down, in, and out. Couple more. And done. Good. Next up, we have our single leg RDLs. So we're going to get up onto our feet, getting into our kickstand position or our single leg position here, getting a little shelf, chair, table, something to support our weight. We're going to swing the hips back, lowering the chest down towards the ground. Nice. And parallel to the ground, keeping that leg straight and swinging back up. Going back and forth. Nice and even. Getting those hips scooted back, sticking down into one leg. And switching sides. Nice, even pace. Swinging those hips back and standing up tall again. Good. From here, we're going to go into our air squats. So getting our feet about hip width apart, hands together. We're going to extend the hands out and lower our hips down to the heels, keeping that weight over the midpoint of the foot. Moving at a nice even pace, lowering the hips and coming back up. Trying to suck that belly button into spine, keeping good tall posture through the core and the torso. Getting a nice rhythm here, extending those hands out and popping back up. Nice and easy here. Couple more seconds. And rest. Good. Next up, we've got our shoulder taps. So we're going to bring ourselves down to the ground, hands on the mat. We're going to get our feet back, knees up, and alternating side to side, tapping the shoulders, rotating back and forth. Or, sorry, not rotating, just switching back and forth. Keeping our hips nice and level with the shoulders, sucking that belly button up to spine, finding a nice even pace. Almost done, and rest. Good. Next up, we have our bird dogs. So getting our hands underneath the shoulder, knees underneath the hips. We're going to extend opposite hand and foot out. Sucking that belly button up to spine, pressing the ground away. Holding up at the top, lowering down, switching sides. Extending out, sucking that belly button up. Nice deep breath out. And switching sides, extending out. Holding that position, sucking belly button to spine. And switching out. Switching sides again. And one more time. And lowering back down. Good. Next up, we're going to go into our IYTAs. So laying down on our stomach. We're going to start with our hands out in front. We're going to bring our hands up off the ground, raising the chest up into a nice tall I position. Holding and lowering down. Spreading out at a 45 for the Ys. We're going to point our thumbs up to the ceiling and bring the hands up. Holding, squeezing that egg through the middle of the back, lowering back down. Going into a T position. We're going to pop the hands back up. Holding and lowering back down. Good. Lastly, we're bringing the hands down by the hips, bringing them up off the ground, punching through the feet, and lowering back down. Good. Next up, we have our push-ups. So in either a kneeling or a full extended position, we are going to lower the chest down to the ground. Folding the elbows next to the ribs, nice and even through the hands, and pressing back up. Getting a nice even pace as we lower down and back up, pressing through the ground, nice and controlled. Couple more here, sucking that belly button up to spine, keeping that nice engaged torso. Pressing through, a couple more. And rest. Good. Next up, we're going to go into our plank, getting our forearms down to the ground. Pressing our hips up into the air, driving up through the forearms, popping up onto the toes, making sure our hips and shoulders are nice and level, belly button sucked up to spine, and holding the position here. Getting that nice engaged torso. Pressing the ground through, holding nice and tight. Keeping that focus, driving those hips up to the air, a few more seconds. And done. Good. All right, we're going to start again at those glute bridge marches. So getting down to the ground, lowering down to the ground, back flat on the floor, feet flat on the floor. We're going to bring our hips up to the ceiling, driving through the heels, feet towards the middle, and we're going to bring one foot up and hold. Switching sides, bringing the other foot up and hold. Moving back and forth between each leg. Switching as we move through our stability of the leg here. Keeping those hips up, driving that weight through the heel. Almost there. And done. Good. Next up, we've got our leg raises to knee tucks. So extending the feet straight out, keeping the hands underneath the hips. We're gonna swing the feet up, pulling the lower back in towards the ground and lowering down towards the mat, tucking those knees in and back up, lowering down, moving nice and even, back and forth, swinging those feet up and tucking the knees in. Nice even pace, nice and in control, not letting those hips swing up off the ground as we bring the heels in and up. Trying to keep those legs as straight as we can as we bring the feet up and rest. Very good. Next up, we have our single leg RDL. So getting up onto our feet, we're gonna have our foot in a kickstand position, bending one knee slightly and swinging the hip back, lowering the chest down and pulling back up. Getting a nice swinging motion from the hip. Swinging back and forth, getting those hips forward and swinging back. Nice even pace. And switching legs. Driving those hips back and coming back to standing. A few more seconds. And done. Good. Next up, we've got our air squats. So getting our feet about hip width apart, we're going to drop the hips down to the heels and come back up, driving those hips up through the middle of the foot, keeping our chest nice and tall, sucking belly button to spine, extending those hands out and coming back in. Good. Couple more seconds here, keep it up. Still got some time on the clock. Keep that nice, even pace. Couple more seconds. And rest. Very good. Next up, we're going to go into our shoulder taps. So getting back down on the mat, getting our hands underneath the shoulder, feet extended back, knees off the ground, toes wider than hips. We're going to switch back and forth, side to side. Nice even pace here. Switching hands, alternating shoulder to shoulder. Couple more seconds. And lowering down. Next up, we've got our bird dogs. Getting our hands underneath our hip, or hands underneath the shoulder, knees underneath the hips. We're going to extend opposite hand and knee out, getting that cross body stability. Nice and even, sucking belly button to spine. Really controlling the breath and stability here as we switch sides. Holding. And switching. Getting that stability nice and through, sucking the belly button up the spine. Last little switch here. And lowering down. Good. Next up, we've got those IYTAs. So extending the hands out front, driving up to the ceiling, holding up at the top, and lowering down. Extending the arms out to 45, picking them back up, holding, squeezing that egg through the middle of the back, and lowering back down. Arms come out wide to a T, and coming up, holding, and lowering back down. Hands down by the hips. We're gonna bring them up for our A's. Holding, punching those fists through the hips, and lowering back down. Good, now we're up for our push-ups. Last little bit here, make them count. Either got your knees down or feet extended back, and we're driving the elbows tight to the ribs, pressing back up. Squeezing those shoulder blades together, crushing that egg through the back as we press the chest away from the ground. Nice, even press. Driving through the heel of the hand, bringing the body up. And done. Good. Next up, we've got our forearms down to the ground. Gonna bring our hips up off the ground, driving our knees up, and holding. Engaging our lower body, our torso, our shoulders, driving the ground away, through the elbows and the toes. Sucking that belly button to spine. A little bit longer of a hold, almost there, last bit of work. Keep it up. And lowering down, very good. All right, way to finish out. We're gonna finish strong with a little bit of relaxing stretching here. Go ahead and bring one leg folded back towards the hip for our hurdler stretch. We're gonna get that heel to hip and lowering the body down to the ground, stretching into the front of that hip. If you can't get all the way down to the ground, you can keep yourself popped up on your elbows or your hands as well. Getting a nice deep stretch through the front of the leg there. And switching, extending that leg back out, folding the other leg back, and lowering ourselves down again. And holding that stretch. Very good. Couple more seconds here. And rolling out to the side, extending the leg out, bringing both feet together and reaching forward for a hamstring fold. Stretching through the lower back, the hips and the hamstrings. and relaxing out. Very good. Thank you all so much for coming into our class today, stopping by, checking in. Don't forget to check out all of our amazing classes on SharePoint, led by a bunch of really great instructors. Thank you for tuning in with Exos at Autodesk. Please keep up with the good work. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot me a Slack, an email. My name is Quinn Gabler. Go ahead and check me out. All right. Thank you so much.